Today, we're going to talk about what I like to call the next technology shift. And what that means is the 3D experience. My name is Toby Schnaars. I started working with Solidworks back in 1997. So a very long time using Solidworks. I still use it almost every day. Love Solidworks, diehard user. And also have been using 3D experience for about 5 years here and there. There's been various iterations of the release of 3D experience. Various tools have been shared with us over the years. And I've been trying to really get my chops up over the past couple of years with 3D experience and kind of looking for ways that 3D experience can enhance the SolidWorks users' day-to-day activities, give you some additional capabilities, give you some additional tools. And that's really what we're going to be talking about here today. But before we do, I think it's worth just kind of taking a moment and acknowledging where we came from. You know, back when SolidWorks was first created, the real competition or really the only offering out there was to get a hold of an expensive workstation, a very expensive CAD package. This represented a lot of overhead for the IT team to get it installed, get it up and running. And it was kind of, you know, what we were up against in the very beginning. And that all changed in 95. In 1995, SolidWorks released their first build. It was called SolidWorks 95. And this build came out for the Windows operating system. It was a big challenge. A lot of people said, you know, they wouldn't be able to do it, but the amazing development team at SolidWorks was able to put together a build that could be installed and run on a Windows operating system. And so the goal then became, let's put SolidWorks on the desktop of every engineer in the world. Let's give every engineer access to 3D CAD modeling. So if we fast forward to 2021, we can see that SolidWorks has grown as a brand. It's now considered a $1 billion brand. There's over 5 million users around the world. That's end users, that's educational users, students, hobbyists, over 5 million users around the world. And there are 250,000 companies who have purchased SolidWorks for their teams, purchased SolidWorks and distributed it to their teams. And so what we see with SolidWorks is it's not just 3D CAD, it's a whole slew of solutions. It's 3D CAD, but then taking those models and turning those models into simulation studies. It's data management. It's creating electrical schematics and electrical layouts. You know, a lot of things that we can do with SolidWorks, especially in the world of engineering and engineering design. But it turns out that SolidWorks is actually just one brand of many very strong brands that are available from Dassault Systems. So some of these other brands that are listed here you may have heard of, things like CATIA, things like Simolia or Innovia. These are all different brands that are owned by Dassault Systems that are incredibly strong, have amazing teams of developers behind them, and have, you know, developed and mature products available. But SolidWorks wasn't really touching any of these solutions. It was kind of in its own little world and not branching out and not taking advantage of these other solutions. And so to bring all these solutions together, the 3D experience was created. 3D experience is really a platform. It's an idea, if you will, that, you know, becomes a very specific and useful tool when you and your team purchase it and they start using it. But the idea is really to leverage technology and resources from all the brands that Dassault has access to and bringing them all together in one single interface. And that interface is known as the 3D experience platform. So for example, CATIA, you know, high-end 3D CAD modeling, super extensive libraries, super capable tools. You know, CATIA in combination with Centric PLM would maybe let you do something like this: design an entire airplane, every single component on the airplane, design the fluid lines for the wings, design the electrical systems, all in one assembly, all in one environment. You know, that's really leveraging the power of CATIA inside of a 3D experience environment. Or maybe, you know, my favorite product, SolidWorks. What if we wanted to take SolidWorks and we wanted to do some crazy nonlinear analysis on a SolidWorks assembly? Well, we could do that by taking the SolidWorks models and loading them into the incredibly capable Simolia tools and generating a study like this, a nonlinear study like this, where we could really see what's happening throughout the entire fuselage. You know, this is an example of taking models that you've created in SolidWorks and then leveraging the 3D experience to get additional capabilities that you wouldn't find in SolidWorks or even inside a SolidWorks Simulation Premium. Of course, we can go beyond that with some of those simulation tools that we have, some of the things that we can do with like airflow. I mean, look at this airflow analysis of how a hummingbird flies. You know, that would be next to impossible to do just inside of SolidWorks, but we have the tools and we can now give those tools to you. Or maybe even something like a human organ, you know, being able to hold a human heart in your hand and move it around and take a section view through it and see what's going on with the fluid flow inside of a human heart. You know, these are tools and capabilities that are absolutely within our grasp. We have these tools in other areas of the company. Why not bring them all together and put them into one single system that everyone can utilize? And that's really the idea behind 3DEXPERIENCE. It's just that idea of creating a portal that the entire team can log into and can leverage that's utilizing technologies from different areas of Dassault. And one of the things that I've always loved about Dassault is the 3D modeling that we find in SolidWorks. And we're seeing some of these modeling capabilities being moved over to 3DEXPERIENCE in the form of a true browser-based 3D CAD system. And so what that means is, well, here you can see I'm at my workbench. I'm working on a touch screen computer, and I'm able to create sketch geometry and solid geometry. But this isn't on a program that I installed on my computer. This is actually all being done within a web browser. So I don't have to install any software. And more importantly, because it's in the web browser, I could jump off of this computer, go upstairs, jump onto my tablet, and I could pick up right where I left off. You know, all the heavy lifting is being done in the cloud, and very little of the heavy lifting is being done by that local device. And this capability doesn't only apply to what you would traditionally find in mechanical engineering, you know, machined parts, but it's also something that we can do in a web browser on swoopy, lofty parts. So this is a different browser-based tool. This tool is called X-Shape. And what X-Shape lets you do is lets you create, you know, plastic, swoopy, lofty commercial products in just a few clicks. You know, you saw that entire shape. It started as a, you know, I mean, it happened so fast, I could start it over and show you again. It started as a donut. You instead of, you know, starting with a sketch and revolving a sketch, you just drop a donut out there. You're able to resize that donut. You're able to grab different nodes, push and pull, and ultimately you're able to create this shape. Now, creating something like this in SolidWorks and ensuring that you're maintaining continuity between the different faces, curvature continuity between the different faces. This is something that would take hours and hours and hours, maybe even days to come up with the final solution. But you can see here that by leveraging 3DEXPERIENCE, we're able to utilize tools that we never had access to, and we're able to create this geometry in just a matter of minutes. And then maybe you could share that with the team, get some feedback, make a 3D print. You could then decide that you want to make version 2, version 3, version 4, and finally come up with version 5, which is the final version. Now, what do you do with it after you're done with version 5? Well, using our interconnectivity tools, you can just push that model right into SolidWorks. In fact, you could even export from X-Shape as a neutral file format, like a SLD XML or a step file. You could export right out of X-Shape, and then you could open that in SolidWorks, and you could begin creating your parting lines, begin shelling, adding ribs, adding any internal components, and getting that design ready for manufacturing, you know, and maybe have the whole thing, 5 different permutations, 3D CAD model created, manufacturing model created out of SolidWorks, top half, bottom half, parting lines created, mold design created in a day, you know, instead of maybe taking weeks to go back and forth with the rest of the team and make those changes. So that's really when you're looking for what is the benefit of 3DEXPERIENCE. It's that streamlined communication combined with tools that we've never had access to allow you and your team to get your products from drawing board to, you know, out the door and into market that much faster. And that's really, when you're looking for a benefit of 3DEXPERIENCE at the core, that's what we're all really trying to do. Now, this tool, just like the previous tool that I showed you, runs entirely in a browser. The previous tool is called XDesign. This tool is called X-Shape, runs entirely in a browser. It means that, just like I said before, you could jump from one device to another. You can log out of one session and then log into another section and just pick up right where you left off. And that's another huge benefit to this all being browser-based technology. Here we can see what that kind of browser-based interface looks like. And in this case, what I'm showing is that I can have files that are stored on the left here in a file repository like the Apple Slicer. And this could be a file repository that the entire team can access. And I can then take those files and drag and drop them to the layout on the right, which is a 3D viewer, 3D model viewer. And we can see that when we do that, now anyone on the team who's been granted access can view the files in 3D. This means that they can take measurements, they can make exploded views, and they don't have to have any special software loaded. This is all inside the browser. So you could do this from the road, from your mobile device, from your phone, from a tablet, whatever it is, you can provide feedback to the rest of the team. Imagine how beneficial that'll be when the project manager can look at a 3D CAD model, can discover that there's something wrong, and can convey that back to the engineer all from the road. You know, all from maybe some found time while in transit, maybe on an airplane. But we see that the tools that are available in 3DEXPERIENCE are not limited to CAD and engineering. And this is where we really start to shine when it comes to the differences between the SolidWorks solutions and what we offer in 3DEXPERIENCE. In fact, you could get a lot of benefit out of 3DEXPERIENCE without ever even touching the 3D modeling tools. For example, in this case, what we're showing is we're showing a tool that teams can use to help doing project management. It's got the common tools that you find in project management suites, like a Gantt chart that we can see here. We can see that there's a due date on the far right. It looks like it's around the 14th. And we can see on the left that there's actually a dependency on this Apple Slicer. So as we make adjustments, we can see that that dependency caused the timeline to move forward a little bit. But it's not far enough that we're going to be beyond the due date, and so we should be okay. Now, of course, the items that are on this Gantt chart are going to be linked to specific tasks that we can assign to our team members. So we can see here that each team member could be presented with a to-do, in progress, and done task management suite so that everyone on the team at any point can check in and see how people are doing. Imagine if you were the project manager and you wanted to figure out whether or not your employee was done with that Apple Slicer. Well, just by logging into the collaborative tasks, you can see an overview of which tasks are currently open and which tasks are done. And of course, this can be presented in a variety of ways, including charts and graphs. So if you prefer to see a pie chart that shows you how many tasks on your team are open, how many are in progress, how many are done, you can absolutely do that as well in 3DEXPERIENCE. Along the way, we're going to be able to tap into things like notifications. So when that task does move to done, you know, the project manager, the coworkers, the other people that are on the team are going to get notifications. So nobody has to wait for somebody to send an email or to say, hey, I'm done with that, you can take it next. You're just automatically going to get notifications when it's your turn to jump into the project. And I mentioned before that we can utilize this 3D viewer and anyone on the team can view it and provide feedback. Well, the easiest way to do that is just to create a markup and then to share that markup with the rest of the team. Now, one thing that we like to do in 3DEXPERIENCE is we like to kind of ditch the idea of email, and instead we prefer to communicate on a message board. So you get the entire team that's involved with this project, or the entire team that does electrical work, or the entire team that, you know, really that forms a community. It's up to you to decide what dictates or what defines that community. But you get those people who all belong to the same community, who all have the same interest or the same goal, and you bring them together into one of these message boards. And that way you start to get away from the whole reply all chain. You know, you send an email to somebody, they reply to you and somebody else. Now you're going to reply all to them. And before you know it, you've got 50 emails that have nothing to do with you. And instead, what you're able to do is you're able to post something on a message board and you're able to read the comments that pertain to that particular post. So you can right away see everyone who's got some input, some collaboration for that phase of the project. So we can see that 3DEXPERIENCE lets us work with our 3D models, lets us create a 3D model and view it in a 3D viewer, lets everyone on the team have access to those tools. And I think that, you know, I don't think it can be stated enough that those tools are going to be available from your laptop, but they're also going to be available from a mobile device like a tablet or even your mobile phone. And that's just going to further streamline the process of getting the answers and getting the information you need and directing the project. As far as the tangible benefits, what I would say they would be that the 3DEXPERIENCE is cloud enabled, which means that you're going to have lighter hardware and a more simplified deployment. So cloud enabled means that everything that's being taken care of is taken care of up in the cloud. It's web authenticated. You don't have to worry about setting up those servers or anything like that. The lighter hardware means not only for the server side, but also for the end user side, you're able to do your 3D CAD in the browser. There's no special workstation that's required. You're just doing all that CAD in the browser, and then you're leveraging the cloud to do the computing. And as far as simplified deploy goes, when a new update comes out, if you do happen to have any plugins or anything for your local software, like for Solidworks, if you had a plugin, it's a one-click update. Otherwise, you just log out one day, log in the next day, and the updates have been pushed. And now right away, you're ready to start using the latest and greatest functionality in 3DEXPERIENCE. So what is 3DEXPERIENCE? It's a way of taking all of this technology, all of these resources from throughout Dassault, and kind of combining it together into one single environment that you and your entire team can log into to leverage, to do product development, to do sales development, to do, whatever your task is at your company. There's going to be tools inside of 3DEXPERIENCE that are going to help you. And the benefit is that this puts everybody on the team in one single environment. So now you're able to leverage data from other departments. Now, one of the solutions in this environment that we've seen the most success with in North America is a solution that combines SolidWorks 3D CAD modeling with Enovia product lifecycle management. And a lot of times I refer to this as the SolidWorks connector for 3DEXPERIENCE or data management in the cloud. And so I wanted to share this with everybody today because this is something that is a great way to, talk to your teams, to ask your teams, hey, is this something that we would be interested in? Because we're just finding a lot of customers throughout the country that are really taking to this solution and finding a lot of success with this solution. When it comes to data management in the cloud, the obvious question should be, how does this compare to traditional PDM? So I guess that to illustrate this, we could say that maybe we're working in an environment where our company is spread out across the country. Maybe we've got an office in Pennsylvania, an office in Ohio, an office in San Diego, and is more and more common these days. We have a number of employees who are spread out around the country working remotely. Now, let's say in this scenario, our goal is to get everybody onto one system, one shared environment where our data can be shared and where we can collaborate. If we were going to accomplish this with traditional PDM, we would need to set up and maintain some servers. We would have to make sure that, our servers are always giving us, the fastest read-write speeds on their hard drives. We'd also have to ensure that we're getting the fastest possible connection speeds to those servers. We would also have the challenge of how do we get people who are outside the local area network to connect? So maybe a wide area network or a VPN, that's going to need to be established and maintained along with any security concerns that come with that. And we're going to be responsible for doing upgrades to the servers, upgrades to the hardware, upgrades to the operating system. Well, when we compare this to the data management in the cloud solution from 3DEXPERIENCE, we'll find that it's cloud hosted. So we don't have to set up any hardware. We don't have to worry about making sure that we're getting the fastest possible speeds. 3DEXPERIENCE is going to take care of all that for us. We also utilize web authentication, and we've got white papers that describe what the security is on our web authentication. And you can even set up two-factor authentication to further secure the access to your tenant within 3DEXPERIENCE. Finally, when it comes to upgrades, I mentioned this before, but when it comes to the SolidWorks portion of this, when it comes to the plugin for SolidWorks, all you need to do is a single click to upgrade the SolidWorks portion of it. And for everything that's in 3DEXPERIENCE, it's on the web. So it's just a matter of logging out, logging back in, and you're going to see the latest and greatest. So all these concerns go away. The biggest concerns with getting remote users onto a traditional PDM system go away when it comes to data management in the cloud. And as far as setting it up goes, first is purchase it. You would maybe talk to Design Point, see if this is the best solution for you and for your team. Next is to configure it. Now, there's a lot of options that you can utilize to configure your data management in the cloud. But the truth is that it's actually set up and ready to go out of the box. So if you don't touch any of the admin options, your SolidWorks team is right away going to be able to get in, start checking in files, and start changing the revision of those files, doing true revision management, revision A, revision B, revision C, as well as true collaboration where everyone would be working from the same file repository. But if you need to get to a little bit more capabilities, some of the advanced capabilities, well, we've got you covered there as well. You can do things like configuring the revision naming rules, the access rules based on revision, the maturity graph, the retention policy for iterations, and even attribute mapping into EBOM. And this is something that, we don't really talk about too much in PDM, but when it comes to product lifecycle management, we're really talking about kind of the end-to-end solution for product management. So you're going to see some really deep functionality in the world of Enovia and in the world of 3DEXPERIENCE, because 3DEXPERIENCE is leveraging that brand and the technology and the resources that they offer to kind of give you those same capabilities right within your SolidWorks files. Then it's just a matter of installing the plugin. This is a plugin for SolidWorks, so it installs right onto the local machine, onto the local user's SolidWorks machine. And that's pretty much it. At that point, you're ready to start sharing files. And you're going to find that your engineers in Pennsylvania are going to be able to share their files with the engineers in Ohio, who will be able to share their files with the engineers in California and all throughout the country, or even all throughout the world. Now, the thing that I think really makes this solution appealing, especially to your engineers, is that it all works right within SolidWorks. So when you maybe propose this to your engineering team, you're not going to be showing them some brand new tool that they've never seen before. In fact, if you wanted to get started taking files and adding them to the file repository, the first thing you would do is you would just go to open files the way that you've always done. So here we are inside of SolidWorks using the files that we're already used to, the tools we're already used to, and we're just going to turn on an add-in inside of SolidWorks, which means that we're never going to leave this environment. We're gonna maintain that kind of continuity, our old friend SolidWorks that we're used to. We're not going to be throwing anything new at the engineers. It's going to really throw them off, and it's going to make it very easy for them to adapt to and to adopt this new solution. And once those engineers get in and they start adding files to this repository, or they're ready to add files to this repository, all they really need to do is a right mouse button and a save. And that's what we're showing here. I mean, the assembly is open. The task pane is over on the right in SolidWorks, which the engineers are already used to seeing. And all they need to do is go into that task pane and do a right mouse button on that file and choose save. And because 3DEXPERIENCE understands the interrelationship between SolidWorks files, it's going to scoop up all of the parts, all of the sub-assemblies, and it's going to take those parts and sub-assemblies and it's going to add them into that central file repository. And so ultimately what this means is that everyone on your team is now going to be able to access these files. Maybe this is another engineer, maybe another engineer is going to need to take these files and make more changes in SolidWorks, but maybe it's just a project manager, or maybe even somebody in purchasing who wants to look through the assembly structure and wants to use the information from that assembly structure to order some of the off-the-shelf parts. This is the benefit of 3DEXPERIENCE, is that everybody's able to access this data from one single location. Everybody goes to the same spot. Everybody logs in the same way. So I hope that helps to kind of illustrate this idea of data management in the cloud. It's we've seen a lot of customers all throughout North America, all throughout the world, really, who have adopted this solution, who have been really happy with it. It's a great way to get your team up and running, especially if currently your team doesn't have any data management as part of the solution for SolidWorks. This is just a great way to get them up and running, get them sharing files, and giving them maybe new tools they didn't have before, like the ability to create revision A, revision B, revision C, and at any point substitute one in for the other. This gives them the ability to have the team in Pennsylvania working on one end of the assembly, the team in Ohio simultaneously working on another end of the assembly, and then both teams just choosing an update button and updating all the files to the latest build. So lots of good things to say about the data management solution for SolidWorks users. And like I said, we've gotten a lot of great feedback regarding that solution. So the final thing I'd like to talk to you about today is just kind of how this all comes together for the rest of the team, because we're taking these solutions that exist in the Dassault ecosystem and we're bringing them all together so that everyone on the team can benefit. And one of the first ways that you'll witness that is in our fundamental or foundational role in 3DEXPERIENCE, our foundational set of tools, which is called Collaborative Business Innovator. And I know I'm going to sound kind of like a broken record here, but it's addressing a lot of these same challenges that companies are running into these days. You've got a team of users. Those users are spread out geographically. They're using different devices. How do you get those users to communicate and to collaborate? First of all, you have to decide how to get them all onto the same network. Maybe that's through VPN or some other remote access. Or maybe instead of doing that, you're using some existing tools that are out there, but everybody from the team is using a different set of tools. Maybe one user is using Google tools, one user is using Dropbox, one user is using Microsoft tools, and it doesn't make for a smooth flow of the data. It doesn't make for a smooth collaborative experience. Maybe some users are still hoarding their data, holding their data on local hard drives. I'm laughing because I'm sitting here at my desk looking at a local hard drive that I've got right here. So I'm kind of laughing while I see that image. But maybe you've got some users that are doing that, that are holding their data locally. And then of course, email. You've got the idea of email. How much time do you spend every day looking at email and sorting through emails? And what could we do to kind of cut that out of your life, or at least cut it down to a manageable amount? So these are all things that we can address with our core suite of tools in 3DEXPERIENCE, because at the end of the day, 3DEXPERIENCE on the cloud provides product development teams with a holistic, real-time vision of their business activity and ecosystem. And I think that's kind of a fancy way of saying that 3DEXPERIENCE on the cloud is a web portal that you and your entire team can log into. And within this web portal, there are tools for product development, taking an idea, a napkin sketch, and turning it into something that you can sell. But there's also a lot of tools for business development, business activity, business development. Are we meeting our KPIs? Where are we on our quarterly quota or our monthly quota? Where is each member of my team on their individual quota? These are all tools that you will find in 3DEXPERIENCE. And a lot of these tools might surprise you with how sophisticated they are, because we're leveraging all the different brands that Dassault has to offer. And a lot of these brands have tools that are very mature and very well developed. So regardless of what your role is on the team, you're going to find a tool that you can use to help be more productive. But every member of the team is going to have access to the tools that I'm about to show you. And those tools are found in the Collaborative Business Innovator suite of tools. Now, the first of these tools is, it may seem kind of rudimentary, but I think it's important to note that each user can set up their environment a little bit differently. Like me, if I'm a Solidworks user, maybe I want my front page of 3DEXPERIENCE to look like this. I want to have access to my Solidworks, where I can go to download files or get some tips and tricks, or take a look at a blog, or maybe even get some training. That's what's important to me because I'm a Solidworks user, I'm a CAD user. But maybe somebody else on your team is doing business management. And so their front page is going to look a little different. They're going to see all the, the KPIs. They're going to see all the business quotas. Maybe somebody else on your team is a marketing person. So the front page of their 3DEXPERIENCE is going to have a calendar with all the upcoming events. Whatever your job is, you have the ability to customize your layout to match that job. Now, since I'm a SolidWorks user, the second tab on my environment is going to hold my SolidWorks designs. This is where I'm going to be able to establish a repository for 3D CAD models. And I can either only have this in the cloud, or I could even sync it to my desktop. So we took a look at something like this earlier, but you can just see how nice it is for not only myself, but everyone on the team, managers, product managers, the engineers, marketing people, purchasing people, everyone on the team can get in here, can view these files in 3D, can view these files in 2D, can mark up these files. I mean, this 3D Play viewer here that we're looking at, this is a browser-based viewer. You don't have to install anything. And anyone on the team who has access to that folder can get in here and view these files in 3D. They can access some of the great tools we've got, like the section view tool. So you could go through here and you could look and see, like, oh, it looks like there's a problem there. You're still using that old bolt. We got to make sure that we order the new bolt. or they could even perform an explode view of this assembly to really understand what's going on inside of it. This would be great for a design review meeting, and it doesn't require any special hardware because it's all within the browser. This is just one of the many tools that all users will have access to. And of course, their access to the folder would be dependent on, access granted. We'd have to invite them into that folder. But you're going to find that this online file repository is very similar in terms of capability to some of the other tools that are out there. So maybe you're currently paying a subscription to another tool out there that lets you do file and folder sharing. Well, once you get on 3DEXPERIENCE, you're not even going to need that solution anymore. You'll have everything you need right here inside of 3DEXPERIENCE. For example, file syncing to your local directory. That's something else that we can absolutely do here in 3DEXPERIENCE. So now that we've created that folder for differential, we could go into that folder and we could just drag and drop or copy and paste files from our local drive. What's this going to do for us? Well, it's going to give us access to this information on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, which means it's going to give our entire team access to this information. So we can sync our files between our local drive and 3DEXPERIENCE. Once we do that sync, we're going to be able to view those files. And of course, everyone on the team is going to be able to view those files. We can also see that within 3DEXPERIENCE, we have the ability to share these files. So you're not just limited to you and your team accessing these files. If you needed to, for example, send it out to a contractor, you have the ability to share either just one single file or maybe even the entire folder out to that contractor. So just so many great capabilities to get rid of existing solutions you have, to kind of bring it all together in one spot and give you all the tools you need just in one single solution. When it comes to this basic suite of tools, the collaborative designer for SolidWorks, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the idea of marking up your designs. And I know I've talked about this a little bit already, but it definitely bears repeating. The ability to allow anyone on the team to get in here and to mark up the designs. And there's a lot of different ways you can mark up these designs. You can take measurements, you can create annotations, you can drag and drop, you can use a stylus, whatever it is, you can create these markups and then you can share these markups with the rest of the team. And the way that we typically share these markups is not through an email, but instead is through a message board. And I know I talked about this a little bit earlier, but I think it's an important concept not to overlook. A lot of times people say like, oh, who cares? It's just a message board. Well, it just saves you so much time trying to track down messages when you can see everybody's feedback in one place. It's definitely something we use at Dassault almost exclusively. I hardly ever email with my internal team anymore. It's almost entirely done on 3DEXPERIENCE. And so now we can see that that information has been pushed, not just to a screen capture, but actually pushed to what we call a community, a message board. And when we're examining these message boards, what we'll see is that we'll receive information in real time on these message boards in the form of notifications. So we can see here that there's a lot of different messages on this board. We can see how different people are contributing to our design processes. We can break these up and have different message boards pertain to different projects. But ultimately, you can see here that we receive these notifications. Debbie mentioned something about my design, and maybe we'll see here that Peter mentioned something about my design as well. So let's take a look. Let's see what their feedback is. And, again, the point here is that we're able to see this feedback from everybody all at once. We don't have to go and, sort through a bunch of different messages.
Toby, while you're taking a quick look, I just want to give you a quick little time check. It is 1:36. So Toby's going to finish up, but if anyone has any questions, drop them in so he can address those questions.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Lori. Appreciate it. So the collaborative business innovator, this is, like I said, it's really just kind of an overview of the core set of tools that everybody from your team is going to be able to utilize. These tools are going to give you access to the fundamental tools that you find in 3DEXPERIENCE, the fundamental collaboration, sharing, communication tools. Everybody's going to have these. And really, even if you were just to purchase this suite, even if you were just accessing this very first suite of tools, you would find yourself in a great position to get rid of some of the other solutions you're currently using, get everybody onto the same page, create a central location where everyone can communicate and share ideas. And of course, give your team some new tools that maybe they didn't have access to before to view models in 3D, to mark up those models, and just to kind of keep the communication flowing so that projects aren't held up overnight or over the weekend just because somebody couldn't get to their computer. You know, when you can access it from anywhere, it really opens up the doors of communication and allows projects to keep moving forward. And so I think that was a perfect time check. I think that's actually right about where I'm finishing up here. I hope that in this presentation, you learned what 3DEXPERIENCE is. The 3DEXPERIENCE is a web portal. It's a unified solution where Dassault is pulling from all the different brands that they have access to, pulling resources, pulling developers, pulling technology, and bringing it all together in one spot where all these tools can understand one another, can work together with all the different tools can work together with one another. You're able to leverage data from one tool and utilize it in another tool, and it just ultimately works towards the goal of giving you and your team more options for collaboration, more options for communication, more options for engineering, more options to be productive. And that is what the 3DEXPERIENCE is. I hope that was a good explanation. As far as next steps for you, I think that if this looks like something that could be appealing to you, it's probably good to have a meeting with your team and ask yourselves, what are the current challenges that we're running into? And do we think that those challenges could maybe be addressed by a web portal with a unified set of tools like what we saw today? And if some of those challenges could be addressed, I'd encourage you to contact the amazing team at Design Point. They can definitely steer you in the right direction, especially if you, kind of already start the conversation by saying, look, this is what we're running into. This is what we'd like to do better. This is what we'd like to have, more efficient. What do you have that can help us improve those challenges? So I want to say thank you all so much for joining us today for this presentation. I hope that you learned a lot. And of course, if you have any questions or anything, I'm happy to stick around and answer any questions you may have. And Lori, thank you so much for being such a great host.
Of course. I wish I was as cool as you. So all I can do is be a good host. I know we have one more minute, but Kevin did ask a question. He said, we just upgraded from PDM Works to PDM a year ago. Some of our engineers are still adapting. How hard is it to train and or learn 3DEXPERIENCE compared to PDM functions?
So that's a great question. And if you see my name is up on the screen here, Toby Schnaars, I do have a YouTube channel called Toby Schnaars. And on that YouTube channel, there's a playlist of data management in the cloud using 3DEXPERIENCE. And it's really meant to be more of a technical tutorial. But Kevin, if you watch that, you'll see kind of, what you can expect for your users as far as what the workflow would look like to take a file in Solidworks, a brand new file, check it into 3DEXPERIENCE, have a different user check it out, make a new revision, substitute the revision, et cetera, the common things that we would do. It's really a start to finish tutorial. And I think that if you watch that, you'll find that it's pretty straightforward. If they already know PDM, it's pretty straightforward. And so it's just a matter of figuring out if it's going to be a good match as far as, what would it look like to migrate your data from PDM into 3DEXPERIENCE? Are you using anything in PDM that actually might work better in a local environment? Because sometimes we find that that's the case. The data management in the cloud is terrific when users don't have any PDM currently. It's a slam dunk. But when you already have a PDM system in place, it gets a little bit more nuanced. And so it requires a lot of discovery, a lot of discussions with Design Point to help guide you to make sure that you're getting the best solution for you and your team. So it's a great question. I think the short answer would be it's really easy to learn, especially when you just use the out-of-the-box solution. For user training, I'd say it's probably on par with the PDM user training, maybe 2 hours of training, and they got everything that they need to check files in and out. But if you, as you start adding more and more options and layers and workflows and conditions, then of course it's going to get a little bit more complicated.
Amazing. All right. Oh, and he said, that's perfect. Thanks. I will check out your YouTube channel. Awesome.
Okay, cool.
Also, everyone, there is a booth, a trade show booth, the 3DEXPERIENCE booth. So check that out. You can chat with our people if you have some more questions. But outside of that, let's give it up for Toby. Incredible. Amazing.
Thank you.
Absolutely loved it.
Did you learn anything from this one, Lori?
Oh yeah, I'm totally an engineer, JK, I'm in marketing. But the way you give presentations, I'm I could do this. Are you kidding?
Good. Yeah. Awesome.
Too fun.
Well, there's lots of great marketing tools in 3D Experience as well. So, you know, like I said, everything from the scheduling tools, there's rendering tools that are in 3D Experience. So if you have a 3D model, you want to create a rendering, there's tools that you can use to like automate and schedule the posts on social media. There's tools that you can use to go out and get analytics from the web and like scrape the web and pull those analytics back in so that you can determine, I mean, that could be for marketing, but could also be for sales, right? You could determine like where certain sales trends are going based on those analytics. So, I mean, there's tools in there for everything. I really just scratched the surface today, but the main thing I just wanted to convey is just that there are tools for all areas of your company, not just the engineering departments. And so if any of the areas of your company are running into challenges, you know, be sure to let us know, be sure to let Design Point know. And chances are we have a solution.
That's amazing. Love that. And another Kevin, there's a lot of Kevins in this. Another Kevin said it's time to talk to the crew to work towards this for the future. So that's amazing.
That's great. Great feedback. Thanks, Kevin and Kevin.
All right. Well, that's a wrap, everyone. Catch you guys later. Make sure to, still hang out at our environment. Check out our booths. Of course, we do have a keynote speaker at 3 p.m. And it's going to be a good one. So, thanks.
All right. Thanks, everybody.